Okay, good morning then. It's Rob Hoblin and who else have we got here?
Mark Corder.
Mark Corder. And Mark and I are going to be talking about transferable skills from policing into probably what we would call UK PLC. And what we're going to do is go through four particular areas. We're going to be talking about what do we mean by transferable skills, then probably discuss what we've got so far, because lots of police officers in particular perhaps don't recognise what skills they've got so far. And the reason we're doing this is Mark and I have been interviewing probably 25, 30 police officers in particular over the last 6 months, and we've picked up on those skills, so we're more than happy to share what we know so far. We also now know who's looking for policing skills, so that's a really good point here for us. And then we're going to talk about how do we sell those skills? How do we sell what it is we know? Anything you want to say, Mark, about the four things we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think we underestimate what actual skills and experiences we have in the police. It's easy to leave, walk out the door and forget that you've actually done a lot in 20, 30 years. And unless you actually make some effort to capture those and look back at your memorable moments and even some basic things you did, and you think, well, who's going to be interested in that? But actually, a lot of people will say, wow, you did that, because it's not ordinary and everyday for the outside world, the things that we do.
Yeah, I totally agree, Mark. So next thing we're going to look at, let's have a look at what we mean and the definition of transferable skills, which I've actually put it into two parts here. So the transferable skills we're going to be talking about is a core set of skills and abilities which can be applied to a wide range of different jobs and industries. And that's really the focus of us for today, is this wide range of different jobs and industries. And further to that, the skills we're going to talk about are picked up over a period of time. That doesn't matter what that period is. It could be 1 year, 2 years, or it could be 30 years. So that again shouldn't be a hurdle for anybody thinking, well, I've only been in for 2 years, so I haven't got any skills. You definitely have. And it can be gained from previous positions, also anything you do in the charity sector or the voluntary sector, and it can also include your hobbies or even something that you do at home. Anything, Mark, you want to add to that?
Yeah. We mustn't lose sight of that voluntary work there, because that's great for filling gaps as well. Let's imagine that you're not leaving the police just yet. Perhaps you've got a few months to go and you've got time to get some stuff in, or if you've just left and are now looking for your next steps. Any voluntary work you do, people will bite your hand off, because it is just that. And you can tick some boxes in your skills area that you maybe didn't have before, because it's almost like learning on the job in something else. If you wanted to end up being a paramedic, for example, and stick to the sort of blue light theme, then you will need probably to get some voluntary work in with St. John's Ambulance or something like that. And that will help you get the courses under your belt that you need. So, it's, you've got to think high and wide rather than just narrow to what you've done. And as Rob just said, if you've only done 2 years, well, hopefully you've done a lot of other things before that. So, somewhere in your career history, you've got a lot to offer, but it's about not forgetting the things that you've done.
Okay, Matt, thanks for that. Next thing we're going to look at is the skills that we've got so far. And this is irrespective of what rank you are. I mean, some people say, oh, well, the higher the rank you are, the more skills you've got. I would disagree with that. I'm sure you would as well, Mark. I think it's more about the fact that if you've been in certain ranks, then perhaps you've got some different leadership skills. But as I've always said to police constables in particular, they are leaders as well, because they take charge at scenes of crimes, scenes of incidents, etc.
Yeah, you're right. Some of the workshops I've run, some of the cops or ex-cops say, well, I've never been anything other than a cop. I've got nothing leadership to offer. And you've said it, Rob. You arrive at the first on a scene of something and you take charge. And that's more than some people do when they are managing people, because they don't take charge. So it's how you put it across, what you've actually done rather than what you've actually done. And you can be a high-ranking officer who's hidden behind a lot of people and said the right things at interviews. I'm sure there's not many that exist. But, it's surprising what you can say and what you can do and what you've achieved at whatever rank you are. And it's as much about role as it is about rank.
Yeah, fair enough. That's the next thing here, Mark. Role. And again, we know there are numerous roles within policing, anything from a dog handler to traffic to CID to analysts. There are family liaison officers. There are so many different roles, but it really is about, well, what's the skill set that you've got in each of those roles? Because lots of police officers do many, many roles during a 10, 20, 30-year career.
An example there, right? If anyone who's worked with anything to do with safeguarding, there are so many jobs out there with that theme, working with schools, working with education authorities. There's a huge list. You just have to Google safeguarding jobs. And if you've worked in a role which involves that, then you might be surprised at how many doors that might open for you.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Mark. And again, length of service, yes, it's good to know that somebody's done 30 years loyal service and got medals and all the rest of it. But as I mentioned, just getting through probation on its own, and I can't remember how many weeks it is these days, but certainly used to be 17 weeks when we were last serving, Mark. But however many weeks or months that might be, or the 2-year probation period, that is an achievement on its own. So it shouldn't be disregarded in terms of the length of service. Another area here, we talked about areas of operation. So even when you've got your role and your rank, and as whereabouts within policing have you worked? Have you worked only in force? Have you worked cross-force and collaboration areas? Have you worked in regional crime squads or national type thing? Or have you worked abroad? As you know, Mark, we've interviewed 4 or 5, what I would call international serving officers of all ranks that have been in Afghanistan, Iraq, Sierra Leone, you name the country, and they've probably been there. So it's about where you've worked as well as the role and the rank side of things.
Not just that, but also, continuing from that really, if you've done any training, whether that's official training or whether you've taken time out to help people with their promotion preparation or whatever, training is then on your CV. It's a skill you've got. And you may or may not have a qualification, but you can very quickly get training qualifications, which you can study for before you leave, or you can study after you've left. And you can go and be a trainer in things like health and safety, leadership and management, manual handling. You'd be surprised how much demand there is for training.
Yeah.
Likewise, you can do coaching qualification because people who've looked after teams and managed teams, you've had to coach people, you've had to help people in their job. You just may not see it that way. But you coach people, even if you've helped a constable and you're another constable and you've spent some time with them. If you're a tutor constable, you've done coaching. That's your experience. That's your skills. Get a qualification. And that's something else you can do. And coaching's in high demand these days. So you have to really think, I don't want to use the phrase outside the box, but you have to really think, different to what you would normally want to think to get some different jobs based on what you've done.
Yeah, agree with you, Mark. And the next couple here, we've covered them off anyway, but specialism, so what specialist skills have you used? And have a look outside in terms of where are those specialist skills sought outside? I don't just mean in the policing arena. They could be in a totally different area. As we know, Mark, people like Open are looking for specialist skills. People like Kinetic are looking for specialist skills. So we know that they're sought after those skills. So just think about where else outside of policing might those specialist skills be able to be taken.
I'll give you an example of that as well. There's a guy who was in policing and now he's head of operations at the Mayflower Theatre in Southampton. Wow. So his background of policing and security has basically meant that he's got a wider remit than that, but that helped him get his foot in the door. So it's surprising that if there's a tenuous link sometimes to your background and to the role you're looking for and ending up with, then, things like that can happen. And we know someone who was a police constable for 10 years in the Met, and she ended up becoming a recruitment manager for one of the recruiters because she's got people skills, because she's got a personality. She came across well in the interview. So, and she's now on a career path of, recruitment, and people in recruitment get paid a lot of money for when they place people into jobs. Deals with people all the time, and police deal with people all the time. So, you think differently and think laterally, and be surprised what you come up with. Yeah,
definitely. And again, the next one, you mentioned this before, Mark, but academic achievements. Again, over a long police career, you forget even external courses. You might have done some O levels, some A grades. You might have done some diplomas in something. All these things add up in terms of academic achievements, and it shows potential employers that you've got some drive and determination to better yourself.
And I would be desperate in the twilight of my career to get another academic achievement under my belt, because employers will have a look and see when was the last time you studied, when was the last time you decided to take on, put some effort into learning anything. They don't want to see someone who last did a course or last did a qualification 10, 15 years ago. They want to see someone who's always wanting to learn, always wanting to strive to better themselves. So they'll expect you to do something. And Rob and I, probably once a year since we've left the job, have got another tick in the box, a qualification under our belt. And it's important to keep doing that if you want to compete and stand out from the crowd.
Definitely. Yeah. The next one was an interesting one, Mark. And I looked at this in terms of outside hobbies. And not that I am one, but I was thinking, for instance, any outside hobby. So randomly I chose stamp collecting. And I thought, well, what the heck's that got to do with any skills that you might take elsewhere? And actually stamp collecting, you've got to be an analyst. You've got to be a researcher. You know, you've got to know your stuff. Although it's a specialism type hobby, you've still got to have other skills to be able to do what you do. So, yeah, there's many hobbies out there, but every one of them you have to use certain skills to do them.
Well, attention to detail for stamp collecting, stickability, the fact that you start something and carry it on, you don't give up after 5 minutes. You know, if you've been collecting stamps and have got some of the best ones in the world over a period of 10 years, then clearly you just don't give up easily and you've got some tenacity. And it's just little things like that. That's how you can put it across in an interview.
Yeah.
You could be that something I've done is my children are Cubs and Beavers, and I've just agreed to be one of the managers, and I can't go along every night and do the stuff, but I'm coordinating a team in the background. So I'm now managing 6 people who are sort of running the show, and I'm sort of putting it all together. Right. It's only a couple of hours a week, but it's another thing that not only looks good on your CV, but there's probably some skills and experiences there that you can draw from something new that you didn't maybe get in the job.
Yeah. And my last one here, Mark, other interests, and that could just be that, you know, you keep up to date with the news, you watch specific television programs, you listen to specific podcasts. I know you personally might do lots of listening to TED Talk, but all that stuff all adds up.
Yeah, it's classed as personal development when you commit to looking at stuff like that, or attending events, or reading journals, or reading certain books. You're personally developing yourself because you're open to learning all the time, which is better than the person sat watching Netflix every night.
Yeah. I'm going to be a bit more specific now, Mark, and just move into the skills that we have so far. And the reason I've picked this particular list, this is what's come up in me talking to potential employers over the last couple of months. And as you know, we've been doing some online stuff with OpenReach, with some security employers as well, you know, with Mark Walker from Ashridge Group. So it's just the kind of skills they've mentioned that they're looking for. And the top one always has been communication. I'm going to probably whiz through these, Mark, and if you want to comment at the end, it's probably worth us talking at the end.
Well, the one failing in most organizations always seems to be communication. From the leadership and management courses I run, communication is the main theme. If you've got good communication skills, it's a great start. And let's face it, we spend most of our life in the police communicating with someone. So you've definitely got that in bundles that you can evidence.
Yeah, and we're taught that from day one when we join as a probationer. That's the thing, and those skills just carry on all the way through however length that your service is. Decision making, and that's again for me all ranks. It's not just a case of we only do this when you're a sergeant or an inspector. Actually, most decisions are probably made at what I call the operational sharp end, and whether you're using the national decision model or you're using some kind of fast time kind of critical thinking stuff because you have to, then either way, decision making is certainly, I would say, top 3.
On that one, I think we mainly for the police constable rank here, you could argue, the outside person could argue that you make decisions all the time, well above your pay grade in terms of the ramifications of the outcome. Mm-hmm. You turn up on a scene, there's an accident, there's life and death decisions to make. That's not what everyday people do in their job when they're in an admin office or when they're dealing with people. They don't make those life and death decisions. And you might have made those, and that really puts you up there when you're explaining in your interview an example of when you made a decision compared to the next person who's come in off another Civvy Street job and is going to give their example of when they made a decision to have tea or coffee. So, it's a big deal that you mustn't lose sight of.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mark. team building is the next one I put in. And again, it doesn't have to be that you're a supervisor in policing that to do team building. You could be team building in terms of if you're neighborhood policing as an example, and you're using other agencies in part of that team building exercise, using a team in order to achieve a particular aim. And that's what we do day in, day out. My next one is, it links back to decision making, this problem solving stuff. And again, that could be quick time problem solving, it could be long term problem solving. But this is really key for many people that I've spoken to, Mark, in terms of the employer side of it. They're looking for really good communicators who can make decisions and solve problems. That's the kind of key message that's coming out.
Yeah, and actually, we often have to solve problems really quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas some people might have the liberty to sit on a problem and go home and think about it. We've never had that sort of luxury. I was a Silver Commander at some Greenpeace demos, and you don't have time to sit and have a conflab with a load of people about solving the problem. It's so dynamic, you just have to crack on and sort it, and live or die by your solution. So we're able to solve problems quickly and fast, not sit and deliberate and procrastinate.
Yeah, I'm going to put the next three up, Mark, as a kind of, you could argue this could be the CID side of policing, the criminal investigation department side of policing. So interviewing, investigating, and analysing, the three kind of go together, but you don't have to be criminal investigation department kind of serve to do any of these three. But I just thought I'd link them all together there.
Yeah, I mean, if you've interviewed people for a role, let's say you're you could even be a constable interviewing people for some sort of team that you're heading up. Who knows? It's quite a lot of people these days, even as a constable, have a lot of responsibility. So, you could have interviewed people. That gives you experience. I can tell you now that they don't drill down and, check up on that. So how you want to put that across and, explain the length and breadth of what you've done, that's going to be taken at face value and how well you put it across. And investigating and analysing, as Rob said, I mean, maybe CID, but actually everybody can probably find some of that they've done in their career.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree with you there, Mark. So the other ones I've looked at is, and this one here is like personal resilience, how you're able to do what you do, how you're able to cope with the things that you deal with, which only police officers in the main deal with. So this isn't something that anybody else on Civvy Street deals with, and getting that across as well, about your personal resilience.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy. We've both been working in Civvy Street recently and meeting lots of organisations, haven't we, Rob? And it's very easy to see the lack of resilience when people go sick at the drop of a hat or the slightest thing stresses them out. And you think about some of the stuff you've dealt with, and even if before you finish, you're having to do something else. Some amazing stories that you can tell about your experience and the skills you've had to use compared to perhaps what some other people who haven't been exposed to that have been able to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my next one is it links a little bit about the decision making and the problem solving stuff. But being assertive. Most cops are assertive. It's kind of bred into you from the day of being a probationer. You have to take control, take charge of situations, irrespective of rank, and in life-saving kind of conditions as well.
Yeah, well, organisations are throwing money at assertiveness training to make their people more assertive and more resilient. And we should have that, and we should have the ability to demonstrate that we've got assertiveness, and just by taking charge of a scene. And that's not being overbearing, and that's not being, bullying. It's just doing it the right way. Yeah,
that's where the fine line comes, as you say, Mark. So it's totally different to bullying, for sure. I'm sure we shouldn't have any of those on our viewership, if that's the right word to use. Anyway, my next one's an interesting one. Again, this word has come out from employers. They're looking for mature people to come and join them. That doesn't mean they have to be 50 plus, seen life and all the rest of it. You can still be mature at early 20s, but it is about that life side of thing. What have you seen in life? What have you dealt with in life? How mature are you for your age, for instance?
Yeah, I don't want to chuck a cat amongst the pigeons here or be controversial, but I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of talking to organisations, and there's a certain feeling that the younger generation, who are perhaps less mature because they're obviously younger and less experienced, some of them have been labelled things like the snowflake generation, and the want it now generation.
Yeah,
and they might be less resilient and more susceptible to being upset about things and being offended by things. And organisations honestly can't be doing with that. What they want is someone who's been around the block and is a bit more mature and has got the life skills and experience to go with that. So we're not tarring everyone with the same brush, but just some things I've picked up on in the media and talking to other organizations. They see a lot of value in people who've got experience under their belt and are more likely to have something to offer.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't put this word up there, but it links in with this maturity thing. And a word that has come up is streetwise. You know, when I've been talking to these potential employers, they've been saying we want somebody that's streetwise, and lots of cops are streetwise, obviously. I'll just put my next couple up here, Mark. I've got interpersonal skills, which again that links in with this communication stuff in particular, and open-mindedness. And again, not everybody is open-minded, and I'd probably even argue that me being controversial, that not all cops are open-minded, but that's what we're looking for. Or I say we. That's what potential employers who I've been speaking to. I know you've been speaking to them as well. But this is the kind of, I would say this is my top, whatever this is, 10, 12 list of the skills of which every single cop that I've ever met in my career have got.
Yeah, absolutely. And that last one you just put up there, let's say the flip side to that word is something like the word cynical. And there's a danger, and we've all been in the job and we've listened to people, and I've seen on forums and discussion groups and Facebook groups with cops and ex-cops, there's a danger that sometimes we can get sucked into being cynical. Someone will start something off and start moaning about the job or start moaning about this or that, and everyone else or a lot of other people get sucked into it, and we get this cynical mindset, and that's not what's wanted on the outside. So leave your cynicisms behind you and approach things with an open mind, rather than, oh, I know what's going to happen here, I've seen it all before. Don't be like that. Try and leave your police role behind you and look forward rather than backwards all the time, and you'll hopefully be able to leave any amount of cynicism that you have, hopefully you can leave that behind.
Totally agree, Mark. I mean, one tip for me, for anybody that's listening to our webinar and watching the slideshow at the same time, if I was going to be going for a job outside of policing, this is the list I would be looking at, and this is what I would be trying to evidence everything that I've done in policing against each of these, and use these as a combination perhaps of 2 or 3, but in some kind of format to tell the potential employer, this is what I've done in the past and this is what I can bring to you.
Exactly.
Right, I'm going to just move on, Mark. I'm just conscious of our time here now. And as you and I know, we've met lots of people in the last, I'm just thinking 6 months, not even 6 months. It's only just over 3 months thinking about it now. In terms of who's looking for policing skills external to policing, we've met many employers, as you know, lots of security companies. But what I would advise is for colleagues not to think that the only thing they can do post policing is it has to be related to security, because it doesn't. So if you want to comment on that, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, my view is always, and again, I read some management books, met people, had discussions, and I share the view that you should think big, set goals, set high standards for yourself, and don't think, oh well, if I can just get a job that tops my pension up to back to where I was earning before. In actual fact, then you've sold yourself down the Swanee, because you're earning the same, working as hard, and you probably think, oh, it would have been easier if I just stayed in to the police and what I know.
Yeah.
And you could gain a job in the security world doing £8 an hour, checking passes, standing on gates. Now, there's people that can do that haven't got a security background, a policing background. So maybe think a bit higher than that. Think about being, if you're going to get involved in security, being the manager, being the security director, being someone who's got some experience to offer, some authority, and manages the situation. Because even as a cop, you've managed situations. So I think you can do better. This isn't being disparaging, but I think you can do better than being the bottom of the rung security officer. But there are roles in the security industry where, I'll give you an example, the head of Virgin Atlantic security up until a couple of years ago, he's moved on now, but he was a sergeant in the police before that. And I think looking at the job that was advertised when it came up, probably on 80 or 90K for that role. You can take.
No, I agree with that. Interestingly, I spoke with a guy who was a PC, and he's now the head of security at the Savoy Hotel. You still there, Mark?
Yeah, just says my connection's a bit unstable here. Carry on.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't know if you heard that. I was just saying, I spoke to the guy that's currently the head of security at the Savoy Hotel. It used to be a PC. I think it was in the Met, but you know, doesn't matter which force he was in. But it just goes to prove that the rank thing should more or less be disregarded. It's more about the skills. It is about our
absolutely
skills.
Yeah, they don't care for rank. It's about what have you got to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a few things. We're going to talk about one telecoms company in particular in a minute, and the other thing we're looking at is companies that sell to the public. And again, we've come across quite a few companies that sell things, services or products, and they say that the police officer skills, in particular communication, is the thing they're looking at, because they know that they can deal with the public, and they know they can deal with a, I'll put this in inverted commas, stroppy public if it becomes that. And ex-cops can deal with that quite readily.
Yeah, and the word "sell" there is the word to use, because that's what industry uses. But a lot of people are put off by the fact when they think, "Oh, I can't sell. I'm not a salesperson." Don't think of it as selling. No one likes to be sold to anymore. Think of it as you're telling someone about a benefit or something of value that could be of interest to them. Yeah. And it's just like having a conversation. So probably with our communications experience and background, we can all, inverted commas, sell to people. It's how you do it. Yeah. And it's not as difficult as what it might seem. And there's a lot of jobs out there with that, where your background will be relevant.
I totally agree, Mark. Last one here, and I love this phrase. You know, Mark, we picked this up from colleagues at State 21 when we were doing the workshop a few months ago down in Bristol. But bottom line is, UK PLC is screaming out for ex-cops with all the skills that they've got to come and work for them. And I use that generic term UK PLC because there are hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of companies looking to take on ex-cops.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a couple of, well, 2 or 3 live case studies that we're aware of, Mark, and I'll whiz through these, and just to give people an idea of the variance that we have in terms of organisations looking for policing skills outside of policing. So I've spoken to a guy who is he's not a head of HR, but he's in the HR recruiting team at OpenReach. I've interviewed Mark Comerford, I think it was a week ago Friday, and that interview is on our website as well, free for anybody that wants to kind of have a look at it. It goes on for about 45 minutes, but Mark talks about the skills that OpenReach are looking for. And I've kind of preceded the whole interview into this kind of 7 or 8 lines here. He's looking for honest and trustworthy people to come and work for him. Guess what? 99.9% of cops are honest and trustworthy. He's actually said they don't need to have any previous qualifications. So you don't need to have an engineering degree or a diploma or an O-level in physics or anything like that. He's just looking for people that can do the talking bit in particular. But there is an engineering slant, obviously, to being an OpenReach engineer.
That line there, Rob, what that tells me is that all that list of traits that you put up earlier, police, ability to communicate, resilience and all that, clearly that's what they're looking for, and they'll train you on the job to get you the skills bit.
Yeah, and they do, Matt. And the training takes about a year, but you get paid whilst you're training. Very much like being a probationary cop, to be honest. Very, very similar, but it's over a 12-month period, not 2-year period. Able to solve problems. Guess what? We've just seen that word before. Able to communicate with the public. These are the key core stuff that they're looking for. Here's an interesting one. Working in all weathers. Now, if there's one industry that works in all weathers, it's got to be policing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we like working in all weathers, but we certainly do work in all weathers, come rain, hail or shine, as they say. The interesting one is driving a vehicle, and it's a vehicle very much like the one in the photograph, funnily enough. And this is a good one, this second last one here, this good learners. They need people that are going to come and join them and want to learn new skills. And my favorite one, Mark, I know you may not have seen this before, but my favorite one is the last one here, any age. So I jokingly said, because as you know, my age is mid-50s, I said, oh, so you'll take on somebody that's 58, 59? And he said, yep. He said, we have no age barrier to anybody that wants to come and learn the role at BT OpenReach. I keep saying BT Open, it's actually called OpenReach, there's no BT in front of it. And he said, as long as they can climb a telegraph pole, do the wires, do the stuff, go to the homes, talk to the people, that's the kind of people we're looking for. They've got a vacancy list of about 3,500 across the UK. So it doesn't matter where in the UK you currently are. if you're thinking of setting up home somewhere different, there's jobs there.
So think about what you just said there. 3,500.
Mm-hmm.
That's more than the average size police force. So they could take a whole load of you in one go. So if you want a job that badly, and you might at least want to explore what's available with OpenReach.
Yeah, definitely. And I know their starting wage is about 20k, something like that. And I did ask about transferring pension pots and things like that. They don't take a transferable pension pot, but obviously you can start a new pension. So there's loads and loads of questions I've asked Mark Comerford online. So it's all there. He's also going to put a Q&A handwritten paper together for me, probably a couple of pages with all my questions. And that, Mark, as you know, we discussed it before we came online. We'll put that up on our website as well to let people know exactly what it is that OpenReach are looking for and what and all the benefits that you would get from working with them. They sound like a superb company to work for from my talking with Mark for nearly an hour.
Okay.
Mark, do you want to add to that before I move on to the next one?
Only that you said that your starting pay is XYZ at 20-odd thousand, and I think that's what we've got to bear in mind. That you, like any organisation, you can have promotions. There'll be other benefits to have a look at. So I would suggest that you get onto Google and watch the video first. Get onto Google and find out about this opportunity, and at least have a look at it.
As I said, about the more qualifications you get, this is back to education again. The more you learn, the more specialist you get with OpenReach. Very much like our job in some ways. The more specialist you get, you could be earning 50, 60k quite quickly. I think within 2 years, most are on the 30k plus area. So, and again, the good thing is, when you go out, you know you're going to be going home at a specific time at night again. As I said, there's loads and loads of questions I asked Mark Comerford, but I don't want to go on to that right now. So if anybody's really interested, have a look at our webinar, our interview when I interviewed Mark Comerford, and have a look at the Q&A, which he will put up probably within the next 7 days. I'm going to be contacting him today to see where we are with that. Okay, our next one. I know you probably know more about these guys than I do, Mark. We know about one specific person which we won't go into. Marston's are a enforcement and bailiff company. So they are the largest enforcement bailiff company in the UK. They have vacancies all over the UK. They're specifically focusing on the southeast at the moment, where they have got quite a few vacancies. And again, I can share this. I know a guy, he hasn't worked for Marston, but he works as a bailiff, and he has earned over 80k in 12-month period. So there's lots of money to be made if this is for you. So that's who they are. We've got them as an advertiser, as you know, Mark, on our front page. And this is kind of I've done a lift here from their site. I haven't interviewed anybody from Marston. I have interviewed another organisation who do enforcement and bailiff work, and that's on our website as well. Mark, anything you want to add to that before I move on through this list?
No, it's just the fact that all the skills and experiences and everything that we do in the police, they seem to do in this type of work. So I spoke to one of their recruitment people myself just to get a feel for what we were actually talking about and advertising. And they said being a police officer and being an enforcement officer is basically almost like a carbon copy. They want exactly the skills of a police officer to do this role. And it's a well-paid role because you basically get paid for every time you go and knock on a door or speak to someone and get some action taken. And, there's the fact that you're self-employed working with Marston, and you can go and do the hours you want because they give you a list of jobs to do over a period of a week, and you go and do them when it suits you, which is great for people with families and commitments.
Yeah, my friend Mark, he goes out very early in the morning. He's back by kind of lunchtime, and he does other stuff then for the afternoons. So,
because you're self-employed, you can do other stuff as well for your business. You could do, you could do something else in the afternoon that earned you money.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just go through this list that Marston's have got. Again, this is you can get to Marston's website very quickly by going through our website, front page, the adverts there, and it gives you a big. In fact, I've noticed, Mark, I don't know when you last pressed the button for Marston, but they seem to have stopped recruiting for now. I noticed that this week when I pressed the button. So maybe they have spurts of when they take.
It'll be something that goes on and off all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so clear introduction to life as an enforcement agent. They tell you what the role's all about. So they'll have an introduction day where you can go and have a look and see, is this for me or is it not for me? You get qualifications, City and Guilds accredited training and certification, which you can take to any other enforcement company. It's a bit like the SIA side of the security world. So once you've got that accredited certificate, you can take it to any other enforcement bailiff company in the UK. They've got a dedicated mentoring support, live case observation in the field before you begin. So again, it's a bit like, I guess, a bit like a probation PC in some ways, that you go along and watch how the job's done and be with a colleague, and at some stage they will let you loose and let you do it yourself. So they don't just chuck you in the deep end and say crack on and hope all the best for you. They've got the leading edge of technology for the mobile, and they've got flexible working, as we mentioned. And they also use body-worn video equipment for evidencing anything that may or may not happen, or anything that was said or wasn't said. Again, policing, I think every force bar one now is wearing body-worn video equipment from my understanding reading this last week. So it's something that we're used to, so not something new, which is great. There's an opportunity to generate substantial income. As I mentioned, my mate, over 80K in the last 12 months. There's a regular caseload, a responsible professional corporate support team. So there's all the assistance that you need if you're going to say a bigger job and it perhaps needs maybe 3 or 4 of you to go in rather than just one of you on your own. And there's a consistent performance management framework with regular performance review. And as I mentioned, very much like policing, there are excellent career opportunities as part of a growing and successful organisation. It is getting bigger and bigger, as we know, Mark. That's my list from there. I mean, what we haven't done, Mark, is gone out with anybody to do the role. But as I say, a good mate of mine does this. He says it pays well. Yes, you can go into some really bad places in some of the job, but they'll make you aware of that. You're not going to go into this blind thinking every house is going to be a nice luxury place where they just pay up on the doorstep. It doesn't always work like that.
And you can see why they're interested in former police officers, because that you're going into situations that you've probably been into before and won't be faced by. So this is if you're likely to miss that type of work and would like the money, then this could be a good fit for you.
Yeah, definitely. My third one of the three that we chose, as we know, Mark, Club Power. We've on our front page of our website, we've got Gary Willis on there. He's currently a serving cop in the Met, and Gary and another colleague started this organisation, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And this is, using your phrase, Mark, this isn't about selling. I'll just put this up. Oops, come back one now. This is gonna test me out, isn't it? So I come back to the previous slide. Yeah, so this one is about. You may get it mixed up with utility warehouse, which is the domestic side of looking at all your utilities and other things, is what utility warehouse does. This is specifically looking at businesses, whether business premises, and telling them that, and I'm being very specific with my words here, telling them that there's an opportunity here with Club Power that they can reduce their utility bills over a 12-month period. And there's commission rates in there. There's all sorts going on there. My advice for this one would be, if you're good at talking to people, you're really good at talking to people, you're not selling them anything. You're telling them about an opportunity to make savings on their business. Most business owners will be really happy if you can give them a saving in some way, shape or form. And if it's utilities, then that's great news. The one example we can give, Mark, is the individual, there's one of the Club Power associates, and you're known as an associate, went to a big, huge factory somewhere in London and managed to make a saving on their power, their electricity in particular, of 100K over a 3-year period. That individual, that associate now, commission-wise, has earned 8K per year over the next 3 years. And if that goes on for another 3 years, they'll make another 8K per year over the following 3 years. So
and they've got no more work to do for it, because once it's in the bag, it's in the bag.
Exactly.
So just to add some bits there, all you've got to do is have conversations and make companies aware that how that they can reduce their utility bills, and then you pass those details on to the guys at Club Power, and they do the rest. So you could be at a restaurant having a meal, and the waiter comes over, a waitress, and you just say, "Look, can I just speak to the manager? Blah, 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 we can save you some money on your utility bills." Pass the conversation over to someone else, your bit's done, and you make a commission on every single month that they're with them, with Club Power. for their utility bills from then onwards.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple, and it doesn't cost anything to join the scheme. So you only have to look at the video on our homepage, and there's some more information on the other pages. So it's worth it because it costs nothing to do.
And again, back to when would you do this? You pick your hours, you walk into the town, you walk into an industrial estate, you can do this by phone, you don't have to leave your house, you can do it by email. There's so many different, back to communication skills again. Depends what your forte is in terms of your communication skills, but the bottom line is you contact organizations, businesses, you tell them there's an opportunity to make a saving, up to them whether they take that up or not. If they do, you earn commission, everybody's a winner. So really good stuff, and as I say, Gary's a really lovely guy. You've met him, Mark. We've spoken with him. He's on our website on the very front page at the moment, and they're looking for people all over the country. This isn't just a London thing or a Southeast thing. It's all across the UK, which is great. My last one is not so much a case study, Mark. It's more about okay, so I don't want to work for anybody else now. I don't want to work for another employer. I've had it with people telling me what to do and how to do it. So the next thing you might want to do, and I know lots of people think about this, is start your own business, as we have done, Mark. So in terms of starting your own business, there's lots and lots of things to think about. So what will your business look like? That's what you need to really think about it. What is it that you're actually going to do? What are you going to call the business? It needs to have a name of some kind. You can't call it the same name as somebody else has got. So you need to think about doing some research here about what that business might be called, and really specifically here about who can help me. There's lots of people that can help. Some people want money. Some people are happy to help. I know for a fact that we can probably big up Alex Seary here, Mark, at this point. Alex is an ex-cop from Nottinghamshire, and he has an organisation called Shifts to Success. I do a speaking part for Alex once every 2 or 3 months at his event, and he specifically aligns this to cops who are thinking of leaving policing and forming their own business. And he provides mentorship, all sorts of guidance, and it's a really, really good organisation. They've got their own closed Facebook club with about 450 members in it. So the great and the good, he's got some fantastic mentors in there as well. So more about Alex probably later on, but certainly he can help, and there are others who can possibly help. And again, you have to think about how do you finance this, and how much is it actually going to cost? So if you've never ever run your own business before, you won't know about having to get an accountant, for instance, having to get a domain name for your website. There are quite a few incidental costs. You and I know, Mark, because we've started, I think between us, we've started 2 or 3 different businesses, some of which don't exist anymore, but others do. But as we know it's not always cheap, and you can easily throw your money down the Swanee if you don't speak to the right people and don't do this properly in terms of research as well. And once you've done all this kind of stuff, so you know what your business is going to be called, you know who can help, and you know that you've got the right money in the right place to do it, then you've got to think about, okay, so I've got my business. What transferable skills am I going to be using? Is it something that you've specialized in the past? So, for instance, lots of CID type people, criminal investigation people, might think about, I want to start my own kind of private detective agency. Great, that's good. So you're obviously using those skills again. Others might go into something totally different. So, for instance, I interviewed one guy, Mark, as you know, who's now got his own landscape gardening business. Yeah. There's a lady that runs her own dog walking service, and a poodle parlour, all that kind of stuff. So there are all sorts of things out there. Mark, is there anything you want to add to this at this stage?
I think the key thing for me is, from experience, is that you do your homework and you do your reading and research, and you find out the how to do bit. And certainly joining a club and being involved with someone like Shifts to Success that Rob's just been talking about will help you. I think the key thing to ask yourself at the very start is, what have I got that someone else would pay for? And what I mean is, are you selling a product, or are you selling experience? Are you selling time? You've got to have something that someone else wants. You might think someone else wants it, but it's important that you actually find out that there is a market for it. And if it already exists, how are you going to be different? What's yours going to, how is what you're offering going to be better? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be cheaper? Is it going to be faster? What is going to be so special about you? And that's what we call the unique selling point. You have to be different, or you're just another one amongst all the noise. And it can cost a lot of money and time to get a business off the ground. So you need to make sure that you've done your homework. There's books out there, there's websites. Probably our next webinar could very well be about setting up your own business. So, keep an eye out on the website for information, but you've got to do your homework on this, because this is something that's going to be probably new to you.
Yeah. And just a couple here, Mark. I've talked about how do I register my business, but I like your tip here. You can Google lots of these things and get the information from there. So how do I register my business, and where do you register your business? We know that if it's a limited company, for instance, you do it through Companies House, and actually you can do lots of research at Companies House as well to find out about businesses that you may be involved with. How financially viable are those businesses that want to come and partner with you? So there's lots and lots of information there. I think you're right, Mike. It's a really good point that you make there about maybe next time we do about how to set up your own business and do a webinar on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's something that's got a lot of depth and detail to it, and we can't do it justice on one page here. But a lot of people do it because they like the control it gives them. The fact that they haven't got to do shift work, they haven't got to be at a certain place at a certain time. You get that element of freedom, but you've got to put as much work, if not more, into it, because there's just so many pitfalls and so many things that you need to know. The good thing is, though, setting up a limited company, which is the route most people go, is very easy. You only have to Google that, and there's companies that will do it for you in 60 minutes for about £10-15.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it's that simple. But there's a lot more to do after that. But obviously, setting up a limited company and getting the name is quite doable, actually.
Yeah. I'm conscious of time here, Mark, because we've got a few minutes at the end here. So having spoken about all this stuff, it's still that question about how do we sell the skills that we have. We haven't talked about it yet, but the CV is the obvious one, making sure that you've got a CV that's fit for purpose. If you're job hunting, you don't not necessarily in the CV if you're going to start your own business, but it's good to have a CV irrespective. And as we know, we've got Tom Wheelhouse from Mightify that offers what I would call a very good value for money CV service compared to others that are on the market. Would you say, Mark?
Yeah, and Tom does that for us. So you've only got to go on our website and look at our CV service. Tom's got masses of positive feedback amongst the policing community and ex-police community. So just if you want a great CV, Tom will sort that out for you, and you can do that through our website.
Yeah. And again, once you know what those skills are, so that was in particular that set of about 12 skills we mentioned in the previous few slides ago. Make sure you lift them onto any job application if you are pursuing a job, especially with some of those organisations that we've mentioned. Job interview, I know our last webinar, Mark, was all to do with job interview, so I won't go into in any depth.
Yeah. Make sure they watch our webinars, because there's more where this came from. I
was going to say there's lots of golden nuggets on our website, so please look at our job interview webinar as well. We've got lots of hints and tips, and then linking what we have done to what it is that we're going to be doing. That's the crucial piece here. It's about, in a previous slide, this is what I did. I can take those skills forward, and working for you, we can do X, Y, Z. Really make sure you link what you previously achieved against what you might be looking to achieve with a new organization, if that's the way you're going to be going. We talk about, my slide has just gone off the way around here. We talk about the STAR method, as you know, Mark, in our job interview thing, which is the situation, the task, the action that you took, and really make sure you know what the results are so that you can sell those results to potential interviewers for jobs that you're going for. And these last two words, for me, of all the interviews I've done about 30 interviews of ex-cops, including an ex-deputy chief constable from Lincolnshire. The words that have come out, I would say 90% of the time, is you have to have some self-belief. Really believe that you can go and do some work elsewhere. You're not stuck in any kind of rut about, well, I can only work in a security world, as an example. Have self-belief. You can do it on your own. You can have your own business, or you can go and work for another organisation. And don't let age be a barrier, or academics be a barrier, because there are no barriers, as we've kind of highlighted. Mark, is there anything else? And I should have said.
That's my favourite. That's my favourite line there.
Yeah.
And thinking of self-belief, right? An interviewer will have a range of people in front of them, maybe 4 or 5 interviews to do, and your CVs have passed the, tick the boxes, and it's now down to interviews. They want to see who has got what it takes, that X factor to be the person for the job. And you've got to come across as confident. You've got to come across as you've got belief in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, then why should anyone else believe in you?
Yeah.
So, get that self-belief from somewhere. If you need to do some coaching from someone to find out what it is that you need to improve on to help you do that, to get better, because you're really up against, it's a numbers game with jobs. 100 people might apply, 10 might get shortlisted, 5 might get an interview, and then still only a 20% chance if you just look at numbers. Yeah. So you've got to have the X factor, and you've certainly got to believe in yourself, and you've got to tell them why.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Mark. Yeah, and I'm like you. I love this picture. I love the fact that you do need to stand out from the crowd. So what have you got? What have you done? What evidence can you bring to the party, to the interview, or your CV, or your job application? What's going to make you stand out from that crowd? And that's the kind of the key message for me.
Absolutely. Nobody wants to hire the ordinary candidate. So don't be ordinary. Yeah. Look at what ordinary and average is, and don't be that.
Yeah, I like that, Mark. Love it. Right, last one from us. Good luck. Remember that where we are, we're online, we're on Leaving the Police. We're trying to give as much information, assistance, hints and tips as we can. And I think we've got this covered off, but wherever we can, we're trying to get the resources to help you. So we're learning as we're doing this Leaving the Police initiative as well. Always welcome feedback on our webinars or anything else that we're doing. And please help spread the word of Leaving the Police to colleagues that are thinking of making a change.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's any information that you think is missing that you would like, or a webinar topic that you would like, drop us a line, send us an email, and we'll have it on our list, because we're here to help people who are going to go through what we've been through and come out the other side.
Thanks very much for your time as well this morning, Mark. Thanks so much, everybody, and hopefully you enjoy this. Thank you.